30th, and I will call the Finance Committee meeting to order. I have with me in the room, Dean Nahadas, Peter Twining, Andy Olderman, and Tom Parkins. In addition, we have Chuck Dam and Greg Fetterspiel from the town. It looks like Andrea Mainville is on Zoom. Kathy Bellata from the Select Board is on Zoom. iPhone, is that Mike Pratt or somebody else? Somebody else. Maury had hoped he could join via Zoom, but he wasn't sure. Okay. So this is what we have right now. Our first order of business is the fiscal year 25 Q1 report, which Andrea sent us, I believe yesterday. Did people have an opportunity to look at that?
I printed out the capital part. That's what we're doing this evening.
Well, every quarter, we like to go over the Q1 year-to-date, the quarterly year-to-date report to see if there's any concern is in it. And the only area of concern that I saw was the police overtime. I don't know if other people saw other things. Do you have any comments on the Q1 report, Andrea?
No, I agree. The police overtime, I think appeals overtime, appeal salaries was a little high. I know we requested a transfer last year, so we might have to do that again this year. So those are only two things.
Do we have information as to why? I mean, we've increased the police staff so that we had more coverage, and part of the whole theory is that they would drop off people from covering the front desk if they needed to avoid overtime. Do you have sense on with the overtime?
So they have been able to do that, so they're effective. So a big hit was 4th of July.
Okay.
So there's a tremendous amount of overtime covering the parade and the fireworks. I'm forgetting the number. It's around $15,000 with overtime for those two events.
So that's telling me in future years that in a fireworks year, we need to be increasing the overtime.
Yeah, I mean, the chief would love to see that budget come from somebody else.
Okay.
But there's a possibility, we could put it.
From the 4th of July committee?
But I mean, they would need more money, obviously, to do it.
Okay.
I mean, the money it's out of the same pocket. It's just a question of where.
Well, except they get donations,
Right.
which helps.
And so we had a similar experience a couple of years back then.
Yes. Yeah.
Anything else?
It's the some of the training sessions, for example, this past weekend, we had the active shooter drill. So that brings in everybody.
That's what I was wondering. So we bring in everyone at overtime.
But is that part of the plan? Is that accounted for?
Well, it's not specifically budgeted for. I mean, it's planned, yes, but it's still you're still bringing people in the home.
Because I'm just, because it's what, $75,000 or so, 100,000 was budgeted for overtime. And so even if you take the July 4th, they're 60% expended.
It's high.
For 1 quarter of the school.
I mean, they do run, so summer's the busier time for overtime just because of vacation time, but it is high.
Yeah.
It is high.
So in this upcoming budget, can we have get a better feeling for what type of training they're going to be doing and how that would impact overtime? My sense is the fire department's doing more training.
They're doing a lot of training.
I don't have an issue with it.
He's doing a pretty good job of doing the training while they're on duty.
Okay.
So not everything can be done that way, but
Yeah.
they are able to do quite a bit.
Okay.
Will we see another jump because of the carnival on the overtime? I mean, that probably isn't
That should be privately paid for.
Oh, the police details are privately paid for? Oh, okay.
We had a small comment on the revenue part.
Mhm.
What I ended up doing was to track the local receipts. I put the percentages in the columns instead of the sum. So that, because it's hard, because all the numbers are varying to compare between the years. So, you know, I made that change on the spreadsheet, but that would, so when you're looking at boat excise and the individual items, it's hard to see how they did from last year without that percentage.
You're talking about a format issue, is that?
Yeah, just a matter of putting the, instead of totaling everything to see what percentage of the total, to do each individual item.
Oh, so you're looking at a percentage per line item?
Yes, so that you can compare the 2 years. You can't just do the numbers because they all change a little, you know.
Is that something you can do, Andrea, in the future?
Yes, I was just gonna say that I can definitely add that.
Great, thank you.
Thanks.
Anything else? Geez, it's cold in here. Don't worry,
Yeah, we can always,
it's okay.
might have overcorrect. It sets a 73, just to play.
So we're done with the Q1 report? Okay. And then around 3:30 today, I sent out the launch financials that had been submitted to the select board in October.
Right.
For us to look at. I don't know if anybody had a chance to look at it in advance.
I had a brief chance to look at it and I was surprised. So we've had a number, I didn't know how to evaluate it, but we had a number of repair issues, I gather, that were reasonably significant, but I gather they were absorbed by the available income without a problem. Is that about the situation?
Yeah, so there was a problem with the transmission.
Yeah,
on the
I mean,
local
that was one thing we all
systems.
looked at as a question.
Yeah.
It looks as though it was a relatively minor thing and not leading us to have a more premature transmission replacement or anything.
A new engine.
Because that was, the transmission was one of the first things that was
Concern.
they're shifted into forward and reverse all over the time, yeah. And it was, there's no indication that there's a larger issue there that you can tell.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I think that he's also making the recommendation that in order to, I think he gave us some projected 2026 staff costs,
Yes,
because he's suggesting that we increase it from 18 to 20.
yeah, and that's been my experience in other sailing flows that I have to run. You're seeing a wage increase, it's in that range. I think we really should look at that fairly carefully.
And I was surprised that the arbiters we took in as much money as we did, considering we started it late.
It was started later, it was very, low key in terms of advertising or promoting it.
He said most were walk-ons.
I think there's some more potential there.
Yep,
So even with the $23 an hour, is 50,000 gonna be enough, or we're gonna need more?
that's what he's projected.
He's showing a total budget of 50,000 for next
49968.25. So there's
year. Look,
$31.75.
flip it over, Dean, and you'll see.
Oh, there's another page.
Yeah.
There we go.
$31.75 extra revenue.
Okay, we got it all planned.
But if your general
But he's
comment,
got-
we're seeing wage changes quite actively, if that's the general question you're asking, Dean.
No, I
It
mean,
will carry over to next year, the wage changes are significant.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't he have it at $23 an hour?
Yeah, that's what he's
projecting.
projecting for next year,
we've already got it in.
because he had difficulties hiring people.
Yeah, so he's built that in.
He's built it in.
Yeah. And if he collects more in tours, then we get a little.
Right. And I see no reason why that can't be kept so rising if it's needed in order to cover the service.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of expensive, but apparently other people done it, so. That's okay.
But that's why I asked about repairs to the boats. I didn't know if there were any significant implications about the transmission, because the transmission is the point with these launches where you spend
Yeah.
money. That's where you spend money.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
A lot of.
Well, it's accelerating forward, back, you know, every boat you approach. I had no other questions.
Okay, anybody else have questions? So now we get back to the fiscal year 26 capital budget. Where would you like to start, Greg?
I was gonna ask you that question.
I think that,
What would be helpful to you?
I think we looked at the overall 25-year spread of the large projects, and maybe we need to discuss that a little more to see whether that timing can be tweaked, or what type of, what type of thing people think.
I mean,
Makes
the
sense.
The short answer is yes, we can certainly shift things around. This is a starting point, and we can talk about that. I think that FY 28, we have 6% increase just for the bonding is something that people are worried about.
Yeah,
Because you have to add the 2.5 on top of that. So that number becomes worrisome.
I'm sorry, what document are we looking at?
So if you look at the
Facilities
facility
finance.
financing from last meeting, I'll send it.
that's
Okay.
2 weeks ago, sorry.
Facility financing.
Yes. See, I'm on my computer. I didn't print it.
Trying to do the same thing.
I'm proud of you.
If I run out of juice, I'm in trouble because I didn't bring the board. Those first 3 years are top looking.
Salem was celebrating having a AA bond rating, and I was wondering, isn't AAA what you wanna go after?
Yeah.
Is
That's
that
what we want,
have?
that's what we have,
Yeah.
that's what we want to keep.
Okay,
yeah.
Yeah, that's very important to me.
Maybe they were less than that.
So
Cause that 5% interest is gonna be a big wild card too.
Lots of assumptions.
Yes, yeah, no.
So, let's talk about the DPW garage a little bit. And
Good start.
the realistic assumptions of the timeline. It seems premature to me, I could be wrong, to be including a bond in fiscal year 27. I find it hard to believe it'd be farther along.
So that supposes that we've completed enough construction that it's, we're paying for.
Thanks.
So if, I'll let Chuck speak to the timeline,
this.
in terms of when you actually need to start paying off that bond. Then I could easily probably move to 28. Not 29, depending on how long you want to ban it.
So I don't have that spreadsheet in front of me, but just to kind of, big picture, even taking a step back from just DPW. Like the PFAS is the other kind of big one that's town related. I think, Greg, I don't have the 20-year plan in front of me, but I'm just looking at the 5-year, 26, 27, 28.
Right.
And so it appears at least that the full design for DPW or PFAS is really not funded until 27. Is that right?
So part of the funding would potentially come from the bond.
Which one?
For the design.
Right.
Okay.
I didn't hear that answer for which one?
So part of the design monies.
Yes.
We'll rely, I was relying on some,
bonding in 27.
But it wouldn't be for the full
it would
amount.
be for the full amount.
But it wouldn't be until 27, because if it's not, because I get from my timeline point of view.
Yeah.
If we're looking at FY 26, which is this year's, that we'll approve at,
Right.
annual town meeting. I'm not really gonna have funding available through that town meeting to do the full design.
Not the full design. I was
So that-
hoping-
I guess that's what I'm saying, is so if,
I was hoping to advance.
yeah, so I think you do have, at least for DPW, there is, advancement there. We already have some money right now available for PFAS. So that will be on a trajectory. But the full design would not be available till 27. So I would, to answer the other question, I don't think for either of those, we would be under construction. Building out and paying bonds back in FY 27. It would be either 28 or even, some parts of it 29.
Yeah.
So that, I think that was my other comment about the 6.5%. I mean, that's a number on a spreadsheet right now, but by no means do I think. Especially with, given if I'm not getting the full design to fully flush out, especially on the PFAS end. You're definitely not gonna get, that hitting the 6.5% won't be, your first tax bill in 27. It'll be later.
What kind of design timeline is it? It's like 6 months?
Well, so. For PFAS, we're already getting going. Lincoln Street is gonna be ahead of the plant.
We have federal.
Federal money for,
So
We've got a million.
the long part of that, we're actually in the middle of it right now, is
Okay.
the piloting. Which is ongoing we're already done with the piloting of the well. We're now doing bench scale testing of the piloted well water, if you can follow me there.
yeah.
Then at the plant, we have the pilot ongoing. DEP wants us to keep it going for another 2 or 3 months, so I'll start. In the next month or so, we'll send water from that pilot to the lab for bench scale testing. And then we'll get that report back in January. And that will kind of inform what the design need is at the plant. We already kind of know it at the well, and we have the funding kind of lined up.
And you expect that to be different? That well versus plant?
Yeah, so it's gonna be a new structure at the well, for sure.
But it's potentially, is it to confirm the treatment path? Which, or,
No, we still could potentially do anion exchange or RO, it won't be RO, but it'll either be activated carbon or anion exchange at the well. We're leaning towards activated carbon, but it's still to be determined based on the bench scale testing.
Okay.
There. So, and then we will do the same exercise at the plant,
Yes.
different water, different contaminants, different,
Yep.
source.
Yep.
So we, basically have to do that process twice. We have to do it once for the well and once for the plant.
because they're different.
They're different. It's the same potential, same solutions. It's activated carbon or anion exchange
Yes.
or something else. On that one, that's the very much the crux of the issue right now is I don't have the information to tell you guys, but we're in for a building and activated carbon and iron and manganese removal at the well, no matter what. That's gonna be 10 to 12 million. On the plant side, we have big filter vessels already there. If we can retrofit the existing vessels, or even just rip them out and put back new vessels, frankly, that answer the question of both the surface water treatment rule as well as the PFAS rule, then we're done. And it's much cheaper project than what we're carrying in the kind of worst case scenario budget.
Like what, like, give me some sense of magnitudes there. I mean, in terms of,
So we're carrying roughly 17-ish million for the plant, which
Yes.
includes if we have to do basically a whole new building at the plant, similar to the well.
okay,
If we have to do a whole new building, it's probably a $16 million building. It has to be designed for the entire capacity of the plant and so on and so forth. If we are able to accomplish the treatment goals by just retrofitting the existing filters within the existing building,
Mhm.
that's a gut job of what's there. And put it back and we're, in the $10 million. So it's a
Thank you.
significant,
okay,
maybe not 50% savings, but
Yeah,
like
yeah.
very, 75 for sure.
Yeah.
So that's a big number, and that also goes to the 6.5% versus, 4.5% or something like that.
Right.
So these questions need to be answered and not, shortchanging it. They're big deal questions. But I will, it's not as important, I guess, for, FY 26. But I will have the information pretty close to,
January? Is
well,
that-
I'll have some preliminary results back in January. There's a whole permitting process. We have to submit reports to DEP. They have to approve, there's a process.
Mhm.
But certainly by town meeting, we will know what it is. To pretty, certainly. So that's kind of the track we're on PFAS. So I think we can legitimately move forward with the money we have now in the FY 26 budget that Greg's showing. That we will be back for whatever the design and construction needs are for everything. The balance of Lincoln Street as well as Gravelly Pond. And so just kind of talking that through, it seems more likely that the construction and build out of Gravelly Pond will be later than Lincoln Street, which it has to be anyway, because we need one line on to continue
the other
serving the town. So like this is the MOPO issue that we talk about, maintenance and plant operations. We need to continue keeping the town with water, clean, reliable drinking water, and we will do that. But that's kind of the bar that we're trying to clear.
So Greg, on this spreadsheet, because we're kind of anal, can we break it down into the various components so that it just makes more sense, so we don't lose sight of it? It's dealing with big numbers is difficult.
Well, so I think,
Might spread it out more.
well, so if we have, so each major project is spelled out year by year.
Yeah,
And then it rolls up into this master.
right.
I think maybe that might be helpful
Okay, yeah,
as a way to better understand.
And so I guess I'll finish on the DPW stuff, but then I kind of have another point that kind of goes along with this, but. On DPW, as I've talked about with the select board, and I think with you guys as well, we have a facility master plan that discusses the needs of the town in terms of the facilities. DPW, and I think the select board support, based on the last meeting, going forward with the DPW as kind of thought out at the Upper School Street site. The planning level number that is carrying the facility master plan is what we're carrying, in this budget master plan, or the capital master plan. And it will likely come down, but we are not there yet. We need to spend the design money and do the, alternatives analysis for, certain different criteria that are important to the town, before we can make that commitment. If you look at siting assessments that we've done, and as well as the facility master plan, I mean, there's the actual structure, based on square footage, build out is only, in the $10 million range. But then if you project it out over several years and, start adding on contingencies and escalation, especially the escalation that we've seen the last few years, then you have a $22 million price tag. I cannot take that down artificially. It has to be a process. And so I think that's where we're at. And when we get into the real nuts and bolts of the design, I'm very willing to, go the extra mile in that process to look at alternative buildings, envelope, renewables, different capital life cycle analysis, that we're gonna have to do. So like, I think there's a path forward there where it's not a $22 million job, but I'm not in a position right now to tell you it's not. And so I think, what Greg's showing in the capital master plan, if you will, is, kind of what we should expect until otherwise determined, based on the engineering that we're doing.
but we could theoretically have a pause between the design and actual construction, right? If
Well,
we needed to
inevitably,
finances.
right,
Well, that's what I was gonna get at. As far as I know, we're out of compliance at Lincoln Street, but Gravelly Pond is getting there, but it's not as bad.
We're talking about DPW garage now.
Oh, well,
I mean, so we have a 5-year timeline to be in compliance.
what I was
We're out of
thinking
compliance at
is, but I'm sorry, we were talking, but before we were talking about the water, and I wanted to just say that Gravelly might be something that we can put off. I know the design right now, but because Lincoln Street's out of compliance and we wanna do that now. But Gravelly we might look at where some of these zeros are and project it out that far because it's not that far out of compliance right now, right?
Well, that's why
Well,
we want the breakdown.
Not that far out of
the
compliance, it's the
year.
term.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
term is we have 5 years to be in compliance.
Is
So
it
are we-
out of
are we ahead of
compliance?
that?
And then,
With
And
the federal,
gravity.
with the
Yeah.
federal, the new
Yeah.
federal.
Well, I mean,
So is it-
we're technically not out of compliance until 5 years from now, but
But I
the
get it.
numbers are
Higher,
over the.
okay, so we do need action.
Yeah.
Cause before, a couple of years ago, that was showing increase, but it was below.
Right, that was before they changed the reg, so that's why we,
So we comply with the original state reg.
Yeah,
Right.
okay, so they're
Yeah.
It's
both,
been changed.
okay, good.
but then, like, I guess what I would say is, on all of our projects, we can put the pause break, like, I could go tomorrow and put the pause on Pleasant Street. We don't need to, but like, there's always the opportunity to not award a contract or not, continue with a project that isn't going to either solve the problems that we're trying to solve or, not at our price. But I think it would be a mistake to pause it now until we know what the costs are and what the
But
potential
our-
implications are.
Yeah, our reaction is that the way this has been laid out is that the additional cost for fiscal year 27, 28, and 29 is awfully high. And so the question is can we down adjust the numbers so those percentage increases are not as high?
Well, I mean, we
And
could,
part of that is being more realistic on when the building's actually gonna be completed. As to when we have to start paying for it. This is assuming we're gonna be paying 1.4 million for the DPW garage in fiscal year 27. 1.4 million.
That's,
the bond payment, so
that's
that's
what
the
Sean was
program.
saying,
Yeah,
so, and I think I heard,
And that's where we were gonna need.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's all we're asking is to look at this realistically to say, okay.
Yeah.
Will it really spread out a little later?
So I can sit down
Yeah.
and talk to each project and talk about design,
Right,
phase one construction, phase two construction, and see the full impacts of those bond payments hit.
right.
well, and
but I mean, on the flip side, we could start them, in FY 26, and we could still do that process and not have it hit the tax rate until then. We need that's what I think I told you guys when we sat down is what really holds me up and stops this train from really taking off is not having the available funding at the specific time that we need it, because I don't need to spend it, but I need it approved via town meeting or, whatever other bars there are to clear.
I think it makes
That's
sense.
that's
to-
the hard part for me.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to pursue at least schematic design to understand, that looks at the various options for the garage and then, have those options estimated. So that we can then we can be in more better information about what to project in terms of budgeting, and then we can talk about the timing.
I strongly agree with what you just said, because I guarantee that would give us the data to be able to also think about timing, because I think that's what Sarah's asking about, large measure. So we know what the options are and what they cost, and focus in on what the timing is.
And that's a little bit more specific than what I thought I heard you say, Chuck, that just in terms of looking at a preliminary design phase before a decision can be made for the design to then finalized. Forward. But does that make sense or?
Yeah, what are you thinking, Larry? I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, what you're saying makes sense. I have no problem with it. But like you could also do it the other way where, and maybe this is a second exercise that Greg and I do, but you could also do it, what is the kind of allowable per year? And I think that's what, in my mind at least, what Greg has put together on the piece of paper. And, we could accelerate or decelerate at any time to meet our goals. And so if the goal is not 6.5%, 5.5%, or 4.5%, I can also put these pieces together over that 5-year plan, and that would help me to actually pull it off. But the idea that we stop right now because there's no more available funding until we go, and I'm not saying right now like tonight, I'm saying
Yeah.
over the course of the fiscal years.
Yeah.
Just seeing things get kicked down the road is what's setting us back. You know what I mean? So like, I just want to be cognizant of that as well.
Yeah.
So I have no problem with what you're saying
Yeah,
and pulling it off, but I also look at it.
Well, we weren't saying kick it down the road.
No, I'm more saying, you know, speaking to the point that you were making about, you know, and I agree. For now, we don't know what the building design is going to be, so we don't know what the cost is, and so it makes sense to project a conservative number there that we know covers our bet. And until we get to the point of understanding which design option is best, you know, maybe we're, you know, building Quonset huts for the trucks or something like that, I don't know. But some, you know, sort of cost-effective option there that might dial it back a little bit and still accomplish what needs to get accomplished.
And so the other thing, you know, I don't know how deep, and we mentioned this before, I mentioned it to the full committee and other places, but you know, this is where it might be helpful to have, instead of doing it, you know, at your FinCom meeting every, you know, other week or whatever, have a facility committee, you know, that would be comprised of a FinCom member, select board member, you know, multiple, to kind of help us shepherd these decisions as they come through, because it does me no good to do a full facility master plan and then, you know, kind of get that going and then kind of pull it back.
Well,
And I would say, and so to kind of things that, like you're saying, like, you know, if we know the Quonset hut or not, like doing the facility master plan that we laid out also gives us additional flexibility, because we really are not building out on the same site, and therefore there's no need to build out all at once. So this is another thing that I've been thinking about, is like, you know, I think we do need to replace the salt shed at the Pleasant Street location. It needs to be at the new location up on School Street. It is programmed into the facility master plan at that location. It is part of the 22 million. But we don't need to do that particular building, you know, cold storage salt shed. We will get another 3 to 5 years out of the one that we have, but it makes no sense to leave it there long term, because long term it's going to be police and fire or facilities or you know, plant. But until we vacate that site completely, it won't be. It can still be a salt shed. And so I think like there are opportunities there to do exactly what you're saying, but also to meet whatever number you think we need to meet along the way. And so that's another way of looking at it.
and I think what we're trying to say is we need to break the projects down more in a fiscal sense, so that we can better plan how much gonna cost a year, rather than making the worst case scenario that we're gonna need to start bonding the whole 22 million for the DPW garage in fiscal year 27.
But again,
That's,
the 22 million is not being bonded all at once either.
but this
we lose
spreadsheet
control
is
of-
showing, that we start paying for it in fiscal year 27, and I'm saying, well, maybe only part of the project, so maybe we're not paying that full amount. And that's all we're trying to do, is to realistically say, okay, how much do we expect to pay a year?
So
It would be helpful at some point to think about what you think is or the pain threshold in terms of tax increases. Are we aiming for no more than 5% annually, including bonds? Is there a sense of what that upper limit ideally is, and what should we try to work with?
I mean, I think it's gonna be interesting to see what the reaction is at the April town meeting after people get their increase this year that's over 4%. Given the large number of years we've had with under 2.5. That this 4% is the largest increase we've had in quite a while. And I don't know if people are gonna react to it. I mean, it's one thing to say it, vote for it at a town meeting. There's another thing once you see a little tax bill. And I don't know. I mean, there's certainly, to me, there hasn't been a lot of pushback
No,
from town residents on tax increases, so it's hard to know what the tipping point is. But I just think this increase coming, it'll be interesting to see with the increase coming, and I have no idea what's happened to assessments and how evenly it's gonna be spread across town, you know. what the pushback's gonna be from people, if there's gonna be any. It's hard to know.
Yeah.
That's the challenge we have.
Usage.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a guessing game.
One thing that's different here than municipal projects I'm familiar with is usually an agency will fund the design and then bond the construction. When you start bonding design and construction, the scope starts to get more vague. So, I mean, if we can somehow in our operating budgets, look at advancing the design until we get a project, and then we can bond that project, vote on it, and have it pay off, you know, in successive years instead of the way that this is being proposed to get the bond now and say, oh, we're gonna allocate it later, we kind of lose control of what year is gonna be what tax rate. Whereas if we do it, if we can advance our design and then do bond the construction, I
The
think
que-
that's how it's more commonly
The
done.
question is, can you do the design with a capital exclusion
We might
in the
do.
short term?
Right. But-
I don't know.
Right, so for 26, that's how I show doing like a 50% design effort on the DPW garage.
Okay,
Using the bond exclusion, about 660,000.
Yeah.
You know, so how far does that get the design?
So if it goes forward in a sort of, schematic design, look at options,
and
discuss options and make a decision. I mean, the discussing and making a decision probably takes a little time before they can be authorized to
Put out a
finalize the design, right?
yeah,
That's what I'm saying, like, especially if it's not available until, another
Right.
town meeting, like,
Right.
that's what's kind of gives us.
Yeah.
The heartburn.
So alternately, so if it doesn't, if that pause in between schematic design and detailed design is, doesn't want to be a fiscal year, I get it. But could be a couple of months, before everybody sort of agrees on the path forward.
Yeah.
But then, so it probably would make sense to allocate that money unless design is started, it sort of overlaps a fiscal year or something like that. But it would make sense to authorize, or think about appropriating or authorizing the design fee and then having control over how it's let out.
separate out the actual construction.
That's right, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can I just make a comment?
Yes.
Information about bonding and borrowing. One thing I've seen other communities do is authorize, say a whole project. But then depending on the timing of how everything goes, they ban it every year. Because they can ban it every year for up to 10 years. So a ban is a bond anticipation note, which is good for 1 year. So that kind of funds the project as it's going until the project is complete, and then they borrow for it. And sometimes they find that, after the first year, if they ban it and they say, okay, well, we took out $1 million, say, but we got in like $200,000 worth of free cash extra that we weren't expecting. Let's pay down the ban to 800,000. And so that in the end, you won't have to borrow as much. So I just want to throw that as another option. Because we're talking about borrowing and like having complete debt service like right away, but you can extend it out so it's not such a huge hit in the beginning. Does that make sense?
And you have a question on that, which is, so you're saying authorize the whole project and then control it through your annual
Borrowing.
process?
Yes, like how you borrow for it.
Just want to be sure I understood it.
Yeah, because I can't go out and say, we have a $20 million authorization. The financial advisors, they have all these rules that we have to follow, that we have to make sure that we spend all that money within 3 years of doing a full general obligation bond. So a lot of times these projects go a little longer than that, because you just don't know about timing. So they ban for it. So they just do a 1-year ban until they're ready and the project's complete, and then they borrow for it. That's kind of what the school did for the elementary school.
And so looking at like PFAS, for example, like
Mhm.
I feel like that would lend itself very well to that. It's so with DPW, but frankly, for PFAS, it like, we know it's gonna happen over the next 5 years, so we have to be in compliance. And I do know that, and I appreciate that there's like a lot of, wiggle room between the 16-17 million and the 10 million and, where we end up. Plus, we have outside cash that we think will be available between settlements and grants and whatnot. So, that's another thing where like, if we got a grant, we could just pay off the ban right there, right, Andrea? So like, it would never hit the tax rate.
That's right.
But I can't get there until we pay for the design and, anticipate. And I can also, this is on our end, we can make a bid period, 90 days, 6 months, like we don't have to award a contract until, that couple months that you said it would be nice to have to, before we all agree or, whatever. So like either during the bid process, after the bid process, like there are built-in months of time that we have no matter what. So if we were having that time coincide with, whatever other conversations you'd have, or, talking with Andrea and you guys as select board in terms of, are we ready to go this next step? Like that's easily done. But we can't easily get there until all the authorization is, in play.
Well, and I think that, I think there's a difference between the authorization piece and the planning out of your meeting. That, I think that's what we have to distinguish between.
Yeah, that's the centerpiece of what you've been saying in this conversation.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. Because I think it's very confusing to people. We authorize a big number. I mean, we had it with the school just, was it a year ago? Or how many years ago did we authorize the memorial school? And then a couple of years ago, the final piece
Well, doesn't hit the tax rate until
hit the
Right.
tax rate and,
years later.
right, and that's very confusing.
Yeah.
To people, so the extent to which we can better explain it up front to people. What pieces will be paid when and how it might impact the tax rate, knowing that the end date is still an unknown as far as when the general bonds will be issued. And that Andrea has control over that. I didn't know we had 10 years we could pay bans.
Yeah, so could you explain the projected tax increase line? Why is it all in the first 3 years and then nothing
Yes.
after?
Yes, why is that?
I mean,
Well,
bonds are to avoid a tax increase because you just pay the interest in the operating budget. So,
No, we pay, when we issue a bond, general bond, we pay both principal and interest.
As an exclusion, you don't have typical.
Right.
But the ban would be interest only.
Right, so you end up paying more interest because you're not paying down principal. It's the disadvantage of long bans, multiple
Right.
years of bans. But it has advantages as well, so. The reason why you don't see additional tax increases later on is because of the other revenue sources that will be increasing. Particularly our liabilities coming offline and.
Okay,
in
yes,
those areas.
Means bonds are getting paid off.
And
Yeah,
bonds
that's
are getting paid
OPEB
off.
and pension
Oh,
also.
that's right, the pension, yes.
So, yes,
so the trick
paying
is.
off old bonds
Yes,
and paying off liabilities.
yes, okay.
And then we have, I'm also showing the new tax revenue from CST as being
Mhm.
removed
Mhm.
as well. And so, yeah, again, we can push some of these projects off so that they're smaller numbers up front, but there won't be zeros further out.
Understand.
So,
If you look at, under revenue, if you look, it's line 17 on the spreadsheet, it's retiree liabilities fully funded and reallocated. Is that,
right, so if you go to 35, FY 35, I'm showing that $1,500, 1.5 million that's going towards those liabilities. No longer having to do that, and now that money becomes available to pay for bonds.
And that's OPEB.
That's OPEB and its pension.
Oh, I thought we were on track to pay off OPEB earlier. Have we lost
I
that?
thought it was
So
32 or
it's
3.
33, 34.
Okay.
I was a little conservative here.
I
and
thought
said
we were
31.
paying extra, so it was gonna be like 32. Have we
Yeah,
stopped
that's
paying
what I thought
extra?
too.
OPEB, I think, will be done.
Okay,
But
okay.
the pension is in
The
little
State
bit in trouble.
controls. Yeah. They keep spreading, extending.
We're not as much in control of that.
It's supposed to be an extra 6 or 7% for like 5 years. And
Yes.
it's like more than that.
There's 2 dates now. I thought it was just-
But then you see, again, by the mid-30s, a lot of, all the existing debt that we have on the books today, except for the one we just authorized this current year, those all get paid off, and so that frees up. It grows over time, but it really jumps in 34, 35, when you get 1.2 million that you can reallocate to new bonds.
The
So
problem is we can't wait that long to start. new stuff.
And I don't wanna get into like project specifics, project by project, but we have a backlog of $40 million worth of pipe work. We're not doing that over the next 5 years or 10 years, and so like, I could definitely see, like, I really do think it's important to get Tappan and Bennett done sooner rather than later. But like after that, when we're doing Summer Street is, gonna be a $10 million project. We're not gonna do that all at once, so we could make that, 10 $1 million projects, or 5 $2 million projects, each year. And so there is a lot of flexibility in the rest of the capital as well, in my opinion, at least for, pipe and stuff that I'm in control of. I think it will work out, but we gotta kind of roll that ball forward.
And that's what we need to be cognizant of, just so that, we're not.
Yeah, so I mean, I can fully expect sitting down with you guys in, 5 years from now and saying, Chuck, we're not doing any more pipe because we just did all these things and they're just now coming on the books and, we're putting it off here, something like that. I mean, I'm gonna try and work it so we don't have to, but, there are kind of some skid hatches along the way.
But I mean, if we back in, could we support a 2% override every 4 years for 12 years? Like,
This is a debt exclusion, so it's not an override per se.
well, he's asking what the percent, what's a tolerable increase?
Right, but,
So I'm like trying to back in from that first, just to see.
and I don't think we know.
Yeah.
I mean, we're just pulling numbers out of the air as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, the money, we're here to talk about money, this is a FinCon, but like, the projects need to go forward sooner rather than later. Like, I don't want them to
Right.
wait
no.
12 years.
I mean, it's helpful to see these kind of projected out such as they are,
Yeah, no, this
We'll
is a
know
great
more
tool.
about those numbers, I'd say over the course of the next year or so.
And it also will be impacted by whether or not we lose grants.
Yes.
So, I mean,
State grants, right?
So I'm a little confused about where we've
But
gotten
what's
to.
happening now is the state is getting more federal grants and the state is controlling the allocation out to the towns. So that's at risk too, if they're taking federal. In effect, federal funds converting them to state grants, and then if they do willy-nilly on what the criteria are for their.
I don't think it'll impact PFAS, but I think the rest of it's definitely fair game.
I would hope it wouldn't.
So I'm not quite
Yeah,
sure,
so-
where have we gotten to on Andy's comment? As proposed about the design moving forward, the design options moving forward on,
We need more details.
okay,
We don't know what the cost of the design is.
we'll work on that. We'll
Yeah.
develop
okay,
some
okay, that,
more
thank you, I
detail.
just want to know where we got to, that's all.
Yeah,
And, I'll try another version or two of this spreadsheet
Yeah.
that shows. Can I keep it no more than a 4% for bonding? I don't know. It's a. So that would mean, the 6.5 range is a hit.
Probably should keep dredging as a separate line too, in the
yeah,
next
that's,
version.
yeah.
But, that's That's what I'm taking away from.
Maybe public safety
Okay,
building and
thank you.
town hall rehab should be two separate lines too.
I think the more detail we have, the easier it is for us to figure out numbers when they're not so big.
Sarah, do we have any new information relative to the school project in Essex? Is that all?
Andy's
Is
on
there
the committee,
anything
he
on
might
that
know
that
something.
gives us any new news on?
Nothing relative to budget that's that we're gonna know about anytime soon. Right now, I think there's a meeting with the MSBA on December 12th. And that's where we finalize this kind of 9-month period that we've been in for, which leads up to starting the design process. So,
That was the project that we authorized at the last town meeting, that
yes,
900,000 or whatever it was,
600 years.
600, whatever the number was, but that will be completed by then. That's what's that? I'm sorry, I've lost track of what that's called.
feasibility.
Feasibility.
So it's, we really haven't, we're just about to start that. So next steps after the meeting with the MSBA are hiring an OPM, so that's owner's project manager. And then once they're on board, we'll then, start the process for hiring the design team.
Got it.
And then we get into the 3 chunks that make up the feasibility phase. So
And that'll take until roughly when did you estimate?
So that'll be, I think. So if we hired an architect in sort of the spring, that's in March. I think it's probably, it's probably at least 9 months or so for them. So maybe there's a vote at Springtown meeting on the project.
2026.
26, yeah.
So for FY 27, right?
Yeah.
So do you think we're paying that debt on?
I think it's at least a year and a half, maybe a couple of years, and it depends on whether depends on whether they do a project on the current site or whether they do something somewhere else. I know they were interested in looking at something somewhere else in town. And the town and state also makes you look at 3 different project types during that feasibility design phase. One is just code upgrades of the existing building, which is not likely because the classroom spaces don't meet current teaching criteria that the state has. The other is an addition renovation. And then say, for example, they decide to keep the gym and another part
Gotcha.
of the building and just add on classroom wings. And then the third would be new construction.
Which is the most likely.
Most likely, yeah, because there's a lot of code upgrades that have happened in over the decades that the building's been there, and there's a lot of structural enhancements, seismic upgrades that would be required, and they were basically what priced out any sort of reno add on.
Not for nothing, it sounds exactly like DPW.
The process,
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
No,
yeah, and I don't know, I know the
Which
state,
is why we need the pieces broken down, because
does,
school was broken down.
the state was thinking about starting a similar project to the MSBA for other like town facilities buildings. Is that launched yet? Do you know?
I haven't been following it, but
It never made it past committee,
Oh, it did.
so there's talk about resurrecting it in the new
Okay,
legislative cycle, but remains to be seen.
okay.
What did Rockport get for its DPW garage? Where did it got funding? Where did it come from? Got funding from the state.
Yeah, I'll have to double check. Whether
Okay.
it was a specific grant or was it in earmark? Not sure.
I thought the latter, but I
Yeah,
haven't asked directly.
I thought it was 2, but I'm not 100% sure. We can find out.
Yeah, because there was concern by on social media, whether it's true or not, that they would lose the funding they'd receive for the DPW garage if they didn't pass 3A. I just was curious where the money came from, that was at risk. Might not be at risk, maybe people would just might be saying that, but.
Just a sign, I know it came up at the last meeting on, kind of the DPW site, potential site, School Street. We will be doing borings and some survey there. We will look a lot closer at kind of the lower area on the very corner of Atwater and School for
Yes.
Potential public safety.
Yes.
Whether that goes at the same time or even 10 years from now. but
Yep.
That could work, or at least, looking at it, so we'll do some due diligence there. The other thing that was mentioned at one point was Sweeney Park and potentially, finding fields elsewhere and doing something there with public safety. Based on because we are looking at a field renovation there right now, even a field renovation is almost impossible. Based on the wetlands and encroachment and buffer zones. It really is a filled in wetland and all of the soils there are wet. So the public safety is.
Not feasible from an engineering sense, or not feasible from like Concom won't let it happen.
Maybe you could strong on local Concom, but I don't think DEP's. It is like.
Even if you raised up the
every buffer.
building,
It's in the buffer, there's no change,
Wait,
like
so-
all the setbacks.
He's saying for like the field renovation project.
yeah.
Well,
well,
the
but
field
I'm just
renovation
thinking-
project, we think we can still fit the envelope, but it won't be what we had envisioned when we set out, in terms of like
Just
multiple
make it
field.
drain.
Yeah, it's just impossible. And so that will be it will be hard to do as a field project. It would be impossible to do as a public safety or something else.
Like baseball.
So just, we have kind of been looking at all options as we go through, but it's tough.
I mean, cause all the houses over in the, like Raymond Street area. Butler Ave, they just forced them to raise them up. To 14 feet elevation. Yep. We do a renovation
Oh,
in
new-
Butler
new
Ave,
construction.
Raymond, no.
Or renovation.
That's coastal zone type.
Coastal.
We do
Not-
renovation, just raise it up.
That's the surge is the issue there, right?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yeah, I mean, that's all
Sea
coastal.
level, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, at Sweeney, you don't have
Yeah,
that issue.
most
You
recently
have-
built there is
That's a
about
roof.
been raised.
Okay, so we've got some work to do.
Good start though.
We'll certainly get back to you, with some scenarios and more details on how we.
Yeah, the successive overrides 3 years in a row would definitely be heartburn. So we're trying to avoid that.
I'm just counting on the fact my assessment's coming. Because of the lack of building. Building, yeah.
Like the house next door to you.
Now the one on the other side, they're hole ramming again. They hole ramming today. It's down.
Is it too early to do revenue projections for SLV to help with this? I mean,
It's too early. That's gonna be appealed into the court
until the,
and gonna take years.
Got
And
a few years to go.
the hope is that along the way, either it will become not financially feasible for him or somebody will buy him out. That's very up in the air.
Or it would be reshaped in any way, or was it?
but the CST is figured.
Yes, see, we have programmed in.
We're hoping planning board will
They'll get there.
soon, before the variance runs out. On December 12th. Or 21st or something, sometime in December.
I looked at the operating budget for a moment, so. Greg, you're in the process right now, I think, of crafting together with various department heads. The operating budget for the next fiscal year, right?
No.
With the intent that we would likely see the books in December
meeting,
Correct.
okay,
Right, so aiming for that.
that's still the target,
Second meeting in December.
yes. Is that the meeting with the select board?
Correct.
Yes,
Yes.
it is
16.
Yeah,
December 16th, Monday, the 16th.
Yeah, okay, I just wanted to check in on that.
And then Andrea is like touch base with Andrea and she's working on what she can come up with for a working format for us to
Yeah,
work.
I know you were gonna meet with her, so.
Yeah.
in terms of each department.
As far as the budget layout.
Yeah.
No, another question, library, is that 270,000 based on the
Where are you looking?
oh, capital,
So you're on the
Grants.
CIP 26 through 30 fiscal year 26 capital report.
yes,
Okay,
FY 26 capital improvement plan from Greg, yeah.
okay.
We had 270,000 for the library, and is that related to the study that we're doing, is like anticipating an outcome or?
So that assumed, no, so what you see in the 5-year capital plan for the library assumes that they are not awarded a library grant in
Okay,
design and in a new project. So it assumes that we have to make repairs to what's there.
270,000 for FY 26 is what. That's one of my like.
Well, the restroom changed from 200,000 to 70, what a bargain.
That's just the design.
Oh, okay.
We're up to 400,000 in the next year. No, 330. $400.
And some of that, not the restroom, but some of the other stuff can come from CPC. Like restoring windows and doors.
Yeah, good.
Spend the 700 grand on that one, we did on the chapel. It's the buildings used every day. So are we saying the Sweeney turf fields numbers coming down?
I'm not ready to say that yet.
They took it out already, it's 50,000 for next year,
Fiscal year, oh, I see, okay.
the request was
Deferred to
that,
29, okay, got it.
Yep.
Got it. I keep this request field, always gets me screwed up.
you look at that and it's like, ah. Do we have a total price on a new pumper? For the fire engine fund? And I know that's the next
Yeah, 900.
900,000, so we need 3 years of 300,000.
Exactly.
So we buy a ladder truck for 1.4 and the pumper's 900.
That's quite a hit in successive years.
Just keep going.
Ladder is much bigger. It's got a ladder that goes up and down. And it's pretty. Yeah,
That was the deal.
it was down from 1.5.
That's right, it was
Yeah.
a leftover.
We got no, it was a demo. We let them
Demo.
keep it for 3 months. To show other people.
It's impressive.
It is pretty.
A lot of stuff going on.
I thought that the Reed Park was all gonna be paid for by grants or something, and no town money. It's requested, not recommended, but I'm just,
Yeah, he put it in there. Yes, it is. That's the-
okay.
So that, that number is a different number. That's for raising.
Yeah.
Beginning way, as it comes into Reed, at fixed here.
Okay,
Um,
But do you raise the whole park? Cause I mean, it's at the level of the park.
Right, that's. Well, that's a,
oh, I see what you're saying, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it went under January.
no, it did.
But we don't use it in January,
I-
so who
Exactly.
cares?
Oh, I know.
But then if you have a walkway from the Masconomo Park, or else those floats over to behind Town Hall, then you'd use it year round. Isn't that one of the things they said about the climate resilience and the converting Masco? Yeah. These boardwalks that you walk off of. Harbor Walk, I think it's called. I hope it's sturdier than the floats by the boat ramp. You would not get me walking a boat ramp type float all around the harbor. Now, what boat are we replacing for the harbor?
What boat are we replacing, especially at that price tag?
So, that's replacement of all the boats.
All the boats?
Oh, no, not the launch. It's the safe boat.
The same boat was supposed to last us for a while. We haven't had it very long, have we, or have we?
3 years now. It's a very expensive boat to run.
Also,
Sucks the gas.
So the engines,
either gas goes.
the gas goes.
Can't we just get new engines that are
That's
more
what-
efficient?
What a boat costs, like.
Right, what's
orders of
causing,
magnitude.
but this is more than just an engine issue, this, you want the price of the hull too, and this is a boat replacement.
I would say the DTEC conversation was. You bring in by him,
Okay.
talk about it.
Okay, yep.
And he prepared an overview of this, insurance you writing. But there are issues with the safety.
You get all these deals and then they turn out not to be deals.
But then if we sell it now, we can make more money now than later.
What, Andrea?
I said if we sell the safe boat now, we'd make more money on it than later.
Oh.
And he is showing about 850, 730 in grant money.
How much did we pay for that boat initially, Andrea? Thought it was a freebie.
No.
No,
Deeply discounted.
It was
What it
significant
is.
discount.
Yeah,
I wanna say it was
pretty
a-
low number, but it just wasn't free.
yeah.
Yeah, it was over 100. Yeah.
What is this boat storage? I'm not familiar, the structure, boat storage structure? What is that?
So basically, that's a Quonset hut up at the water plant. So. As we work on the design of the DPW garage, it could potentially be
Yeah.
incorporated into that. So there
If
are
they can get
options.
it up there.
So, assuming. So,
Extended the driveway.
Oh, so it'll be less steep, okay. Do we have a huge cleanup effort there?
We haven't done anything. But they've been cleaning up, all the stuff that was there is pretty much gone. Might be gone as of today.
Okay,
There's still some finished compost up there and some compost up there, but it's been slowly but surely getting up.
Are there still seagulls?
No, they're all gone.
Okay.
Take the food away and the rest is.
Refreshing.
I mean, I don't know, maybe you guys have seen it, I haven't noticed any at Pine Street, so
No.
I think they're
I
gone.
think it's because it's undercover that
Yeah, yeah.
there are no seagulls there.
I mean, that was the intent all along, so like, I think it's playing out.
I had to close my sunroof whenever I went to the school street one to make sure they didn't splat inside my car. So any more questions on the capital?
Not right now.
Anything that we want Greg to research or anything?
So in terms of sort of what I call the regular capital.
Yeah,
You want to start bringing in documents to go over your areas. What are your thoughts on that?
well, so
It's one of the facilities bill for now.
we have a meeting on November 21st. That's our next meeting.
Is that gonna be with? Essex?
Essex.
I think it's with Essex FinCom. I need them to confirm that. I don't have confirmation. And then I think we have a meeting on December 4th. If I recall properly.
What was this for selectmen?
No,
Oh,
Another one.
Yeah. That's another.
no, December 4th is Wednesday. It's the first Wednesday in December.
So, December 2nd is the Monday.
Yeah, so December 4th, the FinCom was gonna meet.
Yeah.
And then we were gonna meet joint with select board on the 16th for the budget. So we would have December 4th to do deep dives on capital and maybe November 21st, depending on. I just have to nail down the Essex FinCom. Cause that's the only meeting we have in November. People had troubles. We had troubles with schedules in November. And then we don't start meeting weekly in 2025 until January 8th. We get a reprieve this year. Cause New Year's Day is on a Wednesday.
And then it's usually right after that we start meeting with each department.
Yeah. Well, on the 8th, we'll kind of set out the overall schedule and plan it out. Okay. So are we done with capital tonight?
We're tonight.
You need anything else from us in capital?
Thanks, Chuck.
You're good, thanks, Chuck.
Sure myself out, thank you.
Yeah.
Next is liaison updates. Do we have anything?
I don't think we have anything.
We probably should have
Yeah.
one for you guys then.
Okay,
More on the,
okay.
I was kind of waiting, we'll talk about.
Special town meeting warrant articles. Do we have to do anything else?
No.
Okay,
So there are 4 articles.
okay.
There's the CPC request, the 250 for the land conservation deal. There's the old bill.
Yep.
9,000.
Which Alan told me I get to move and speak on,
So far?
the old bills
Oh.
at a secret select board meeting at 8 AM. It was posted, it wasn't secret, but an 8 AM meeting.
Back behind the dumpster.
That is very rude. So there's that, and then the third one is the stormwater. Amendments to the stormwater.
Oh, yeah,
You took no position on that one.
right,
And then the last one is the freeways.
okay, okay,
So just those things, so, no petition or anything.
Good.
Came in, they are pushing out the short-term zone, short-term rental slash
yeah, okay.
ADU
Yep.
efforts for the annual town meeting.
And something to keep in mind on the ADU that people keep forgetting is it only applies to single family.
Yes,
So we need to extend it to all zones.
Has the warrant been printed with the exact wording? Yeah,
It'll be in tomorrow's paper.
okay.
And it'll be posted tomorrow as well.
We don't have any minutes to approve, right? I didn't get any.
None that I'm aware
The
of.
last I saw was the 18th,
Yeah, me too.
September 18th, because I checked. And
So we don't have the October 16th minutes, is that correct, Gail?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
with the second.
Yeah, you need the second too.
Okay,
I'm trying to unscramble those.
okay. You have till November, no, till November 21st.
Thank you.
So our next meeting is scheduled for November 21st and what should we put on that? If the Essex FinCom does not come? Should we do
Could I
capital?
just review what you anticipate talking about with Essex?
No clue.
That's a good update.
That's a good one, yeah.
Should I
Maybe to
talk about
review.
school?
School.
Cool, I mean, I assume, but it did, I mean, nothing.
And what I'll do is I'll push Ben a little bit to see if it's gonna be on, and then I'll send out to people what his agenda items are, and
Great,
get input
okay,
from
just
people as
a
to
little
what other
anticipation here.
items.
Yeah, June is the show.
Yeah, but Ben is
Yeah.
the one pushing this, so
Oh, I see, okay.
Okay.
So.
I don't know why he resigned his chair. I didn't quite understand what happened there. That's okay.
So otherwise, we could, potentially talk to Brian about votes. and-
Okay,
So,
Well, so we'll have updated projections, and more detailed information on the facility.
okay,
Yeah, we're gonna do starting on Chuck's. DPW, regular capital requirements.
okay. Okay.
So we had talked with Chuck about a particular approach of doing schematic design and then sort of understanding options, getting priced out,
Yeah.
make a decision, and then
For the facility, for the big ticket.
for the facility.
Yeah.
And it would just be good to know if in the budgets that we end up talking about at the next meeting, whether the proposed action plan is different. Yes. Or just what it is.
Yes, it
Yeah.
would be.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll make sure that we sync up.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
the annual
Yeah.
with the facility.
That would be great.
Anything else we need? Do you have anything else we need to cover, Greg?
Mm,
Anybody else? And we're good on staffing at town hall?
Yes, yes.
That's good.
The next staffing change would be council on aging.
Okay.
Nancy's retirement first of the year.
Okay, yeah,
So, yeah, it's the next change.
We put the review of the FY 25 again, the next meeting too, so we can like, get into that spreadsheet line. And for an
what do
agenda
you,
item,
what do you want?
the review, that quarterly report that we just got the other day,
Yeah,
maybe have another look at it on the next meeting. So we can go through all the, I didn't have time to, so
okay,
just to have a little. I think it's an important spreadsheet with a lot of information that I would like to, like.
So there are things that
digest.
you didn't bring up tonight that you'd like to discuss about.
Yes, I looked at a couple of things and I'd like to really sink it, yeah.
Yeah, because I think that the only thing we're looking at with respect to the quarterly spreadsheets is where we stand year to date on the current budget,
Trending, yes.
okay? And that is different from the conversation we'll have when we do the fiscal year 26 budget, which is looking at 25 versus 26. So I don't want us to get into those discussions when we're looking at the quarterly reports. Okay, I wanna save those for when we're actually doing the budget and have the numbers to compare, because I think it's important that we do look at year-to-date
Yeah.
information, and unfortunately, we won't have the second quarterly report until after we've started the budgets. Because it won't be done by January 8th. Okay. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So,
Second, take a vote. Dean,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Tom,
Yeah.
Andy,
yes.
Sarah votes yes.
We are adjourned.
Thank you very much.
Right, night all.